Welcome to the County of San Diego's presentation, Make Work Work for You at 50 plus years. We're excited to have you join us here at this presentation because there's lots of tips to help you enter or re-enter the workforce at 50 years or older. What we found in our research is that there are 3 reasons that the more mature worker is re-entering the workforce. One might be they retired, everything's going fine, but they're bored and not challenged and want to re-enter the workforce and be productive. Number 2, their job may have been lost due to a merger or a company closing, and they're back in the job market, not by choice. And number 3, we found a lot of mature workers who thought they could retire and live off Social Security or live off the equity in their home, and we know what happened in the recession a few years ago. Whatever your reason, we're glad to have you join us here and proud to have you. And I think you're going to have lots of tips and learn lots of things about how to re-enter the workforce and how to manage your career as you re-enter the workforce. The next hour is really going to be, I want you to hear from an HR manager. Okay? I'm going to say some things probably, well, you won't want to hear, makes you uncomfortable, and frustrated. But it's important that you hear from an HR manager how we think. Because in most cases, we are the person between you and the job of your dreams, or the job that's going to get you back into the workforce or keep you in the workforce while you work toward the job of your dreams. I'm a big believer, whether you're a 16-year-old or a 66-year-old, that sometimes in our career, because of fate, we have to get a job, get a better job, get a career. We don't jump into that career 22 minutes into our job search. We have to work toward it. And yes, that can be frustrating, but often we need to build a resume if I were talking to a bunch of high school kids, because I'm going to say, tell me what you've done. And if you say nothing, well, that's what I hear is the skill set you're bringing to me is nothing. Likewise, if you're a more mature worker, I'm going to ask you what you've done in the last 10 years. And if it was nothing, that's what I'm going to hear. And again, that's what I'm going to assume you're going to bring to my workplace. So I will move on quickly to the next person or the next resume. We start building our careers and our resumes very early. And I'd like to get to high school kids with the book and young people, because I'm going to ask them what they did in high school. I'm going to ask college kids what they did between years in college, and I'm going to ask everybody what they did with their life while they weren't working. It's easy to talk about, well, I worked at Procter & Gamble, and this is what I did in the marketing department, blah, blah, blah. But if you've been out of the workforce for a while, how many of you are currently out of the workforce and thinking of getting back into it? Whoa! Okay, we're perfect for each other today. That's great. So it's really important what we do with our time, because it is indicative to those of us in HR about what you're going to do when you show up at my work site. The energy you show me, the enthusiasm, the attitude is essential. So the questions I'm happy to answer, why does HR do X? Why don't they Y? Because there are reasons. We're really not boogie bears that like to take 3 months to make a decision. It makes us as crazy as it makes you guys. And you guys is the world. Job descriptions do change mid-process. We start interviewing people and go, wow, our job description shows that we really, the way we've written this, that marketing doesn't sound like a very big part of this job, and it's a really big part of this job. Let's stop, let's rewrite the job description, and let's put it back out. So we learn things as we go through the interview process. So I'm happy to answer questions. All the things I'm going to say and would be saying for hours, I've put in the book Job One, which we've done very special pricing for you today because Ellen has put on such a great program here that we're happy to help support it, and it's available out there. But I encourage you to take notes because I don't know about you, but I learn by writing things down. But Job One will be available for you outside. So I'm happy to get started.
So initially, Phil, what are the unique strengths of the 50-plus worker?
Well, sometimes I think this is probably hard to believe, but the most successful departments have a blend of age groups. In an accounting department, we don't want all 24-year-olds or all 64-year-olds. The most successful department has a lot of different skill sets brought to the table, and it's an array of ages. And if we have time, we'll talk about how to play that up for this audience when they're in an interview. But a variety of points of view, of ethnicity, of ages, gender is really helpful these days in a lot of departments.
Great. And Phil, here's one from our audience. Does Manpower hire people to work from home?
Very rarely.
Okay.
And the reason is workers' comp. Everybody know what workers' comp is? Okay. Our industry, being temporary help, has a big enough problem because we hire people and then send them out to 500 different work sites. Sometimes we have one there, sometimes we have 500 there. But it's a variety of work sites. I've got a risk manager who's a retired Marine drill sergeant. Bill, if you can get anything through Bill, you're good. But Bill goes out to every work site to inspect it to make sure it's safe. Because if anybody is injured on the workplace, you are legally my employee, and it's my responsibility to make you whole again. So we never send anybody out to anywhere we consider the least bit dangerous. No more than 3 feet off the ground, no roofs, no ladders, no acids, no something. So working from home is like the epitome of having no clue what's going on there. Trip over the dog, well, that might not happen at Qualcomm, but it could happen at home. So it's very, very rare.
Great. And Phil, what are the biggest misconceptions about the 50-plus worker?
Tired and cranky.
Oh. Tired. Anything else to add?
Do I need to say more? I told you I was going to be honest with you. I could have said that a lot nicer and softer.
Okay.
I'll just lay that out there and be gone. Next question.
Great. Here's one. How does Manpower have a healthcare or social service division? And how do I present many different careers on my resume?
Somebody snuck 2 questions on one card there, didn't they? Who was that?
Let's start with a healthcare or social service division.
We do all sorts of healthcare other than doctors and nurses. That takes special certifications, special licenses, so we don't do that. I also, sending an engineer out or a receptionist or a blue-collar manufacturer is one thing. I don't want to get a call that my employee, a physician, just killed somebody. You know, that's just not, I want billable hours, but not that bad, right? So we don't do health, but all the clerical and administrative part, doctors' offices, large hospitals, we do, but at Manpower, we don't do healthcare. There are temporary help firms that do, and Manpower is, if I can take a minute, the largest and best in San Diego County, but there are probably 100 other temporary help firms. Mm-hmm. So it's, when I say what we do, there are temporary help firms that specialize in healthcare. There are ones that specialize in doctors and nurses, in traveling doctors and nurses that want to move around the country, specialize in emergency room doctors. I mean, there's every niche known to man, but we don't do that. And the second part of that was, or do you want to give this person 2, or do you want to keep going?
We'll keep going. We'll get back to them. Now, how do you convince an employer to hire someone And this is one of our questions too. Oftentimes the interviewer is someone younger. How do you sell yourself in that type of an employment opportunity?
Well, the first words of advice is during an interview, you are playing two roles besides there as an applicant for a job. You're playing the job of an actor or actress, acting out a role of what the HR person wants to see, and you're playing out in that role relating to someone who is potentially much younger than you are. HR generalists are the entry-level part of the human relations field, and that first interview is usually and very often done by somebody in their 20s. It's an entry-level job, and their job is mostly just to confirm the experience or confirm the education, all the things that are on the resume, which will be validated. It's fine to highlight yourself on your resume, but never lie, because I will find you out and I will fire you immediately. Because if you might use the word exaggerate, I might use the word lie. If you did it on your resume, gosh, what are you going to do within my company? So be very, very careful with that. So you're an actor relating to this other actor who is the HR person. By the way, I get as many questions from young people saying, how do I relate to someone in HR who's much older than I am? So it goes both ways. But in this case, a more mature worker interviewing with somebody in their 20s, you need to relate to them. This is not the time to be, I'm your senior citizen. This is not the time to be all stuffy. This is the time to be very friendly. This is the time to show a lot of energy, a very positive attitude. And those two negatives I referred to before is you need to overcompensate for those two things. And you need to relate to them as a person. This is no time to be very coldly professional. This is no time to be aloof. This is no time to play the senior citizen card, because you want that person to say, Mary Lou is the nicest lady. She reminds me of my aunt, and she'd be great in here because Aunt Mary would be super in our company, and this lady reminds me of Aunt Mary. That's your role you need to play.
Great, thank you, Phil. Now, here's one that might apply to some of us. When you're seeking work, how can somebody make up for significant gaps in their work history? Maybe they've been a caregiver, as Carlene mentioned, or something similar.
Well, Carlene sort of touched on this.
Okay,
if
good.
there's gaps in resumes, you've told me what you did from 1988 to 1998, then there was a gap from 98 to 2004, and then you told me what you did, and then there was another 3-year gap, and then you told me what you've been doing recently. We are a suspicious set. And if you're telling me the good news, what's in the blanks that you're not telling me? There are 3 things I assume. What do you think they are? It's not laughing. There's a hand, a hand up. Love hand ups. Hold it, there's a hand up. Yes, sir. Ma'am, I can't.
You're chronically ill.
That's good, but no. There was a hand over here. No, but you two should meet each other. We're getting it, what? Drugs, alcohol, or prison. Why would you assume that? Why wouldn't you tell me otherwise? Do you think when there's a secret, if a significant other of yours is missing on a Saturday night, do you assume they were volunteering to mow lawns in the neighborhood? No. We go to the worst and work back. Right? Who were you out honky-tonking with? Okay, now I'll listen, It's the same thing because people try to hide the negatives on their resumes. Don't have gaps. And it is very appropriate to, in your own way, say, stayed home and raised my children. Took care of elderly parents. Rehabbing from a car accident. But tell me, don't make me ask. And you're probably not going to have the opportunity for me to ask because I will look at that resume and hit delete. I'm not going to take the time to bring you in to ask you why you screwed up on your resume. And it is a screw up on your resume. If you haven't read the book or learned, don't have gaps on resumes because it is the most obvious thing in the world. Very appropriate, and we hope we have time to spend more time. Did 4 years of volunteer work with the PTA, Junior League, and the Cancer Society. Fabulous stuff. Almost better than working. And I could teach you how you could sell me that it is better than working. And if we had in another session, and this will surprise you, and I'm not going to ask this question here, I could take somebody who has our 3 issues, drugs, alcohol, or prison, and teach them to sell me that they are a better employee and ready to be hired than any of you. So don't take it as a death knell. You take negatives, you learn about it, you accept them, and you learn how to explain them to me, and most importantly, you learn to teach me what you learned. And that's very important on any roadblock you have. Don't deny it, turn it into a positive.
Wonderful. Thank you, Phil. Now, there's a number of requests here to hear about the most in-demand jobs, the fastest growing needs in the workplace, and what you're seeing in terms of your agency with where are the jobs, what industries?
Well, temporary help in many ways is indicative of the job market because we're getting calls every day. We get, at Manpower here in San Diego, we get probably 70 job orders that we need to fill a day. We're big. We have, this is Saturday. If this was Friday, I would tell you that we have 3,400 people out working right now. 700 or 800 of those, let me do a namaste, are at Qualcomm, the most wonderful company on the face of the earth. Mainly because they're my biggest client, but they're a fabulous company in general. So, true honesty there. But in the temporary help industry, which is what I need you to think about, is it sounds so, oh, you get all these jobs orders in, I just submit a resume, you hire me, and we hit the ground. The problem is you have to hit the ground running. We don't get orders for nice people that treat people nicely. No. Because that's what a lot of mature workers tell me are their skill sets. I like people. I'm friendly. I can talk to strangers. Okay. Tell me about the software you know. Tell me about the phone systems you know. Tell me about the fastest growing areas, and let's sort of get them out of the way here, are technology, engineering, PhDs, masters, technicians, high-level technical experience. With skills that I get the job, I do a huge data search, find the person, and they hit the ground running because they have those skill sets that that company needs. The second is healthcare. Now, healthcare is a big, broad, all the way, we sort of touched on this, from surgeons down to home healthcare aides at $9, $10 an hour. Let me get back to get a job, get a better job, get a career. If you've been out of the workforce for a while, you need to start building a resume again. Anything 10 years or older, blah, 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 blah. because the world changes so quickly. Carlene's slide's up here. This shift often feels like earthquakes because it can happen in one day. Google happens, Microsoft happens, Uber happens. And a month later you're going, how did we ever live without those companies? And where did they come from so fast and integrate so quickly? And we could probably sit here and have time, name 5 companies that are no longer with us very quickly because they didn't stay up to speed. And just like companies, those of us managing our careers have to stay up to speed. So in San Diego, those are the 2 fastest growing. They're really the 2 fastest in the United States. They're really the 2 fastest in the world. But for the most part, they take an extensive education level. Healthcare being one that you can work your way up. But if you really want to get into this $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 job, you've got to get a nursing degree or a radiology degree. You know, you've got to get into degrees. But home health care, if you like working with people, is a wonderful area to get into. And the third one, which is important probably maybe to this group, is tourism, hospitality. And this is where that bubbly personality, that positive attitude, that the person sitting here saying, I would love to have this person be the receptionist. I would love to have them be in charge of selling tickets to me, or taking my ticket, or serving at the waitress or waiter at my table, or a whole list of hospitality type jobs. Often are standing up because you're moving around and dealing with people, but many times not. Often aren't full-time. You can schedule 20 hours a week, 18 hours a week, 22 hours a week. So that's where the most flexibility is. And that's where that very positive, bubbly, can-do attitude has to come across. And the other thing is appearance.
Right.
If you're seriously looking for a job, let me give you a little side. I used to live in Scripps Ranch when our kids were really young. And completely, my wife and I, we just had our 43rd anniversary. So we've been married a long time. We met at college, got married a week out of college. My old girlfriend from college, like 30 years later, works at a bank and was cashing a check from Manpower, and my signature's on it. And I get this call, Phil Blair, are you the Phil Blair at Oklahoma State University? This is, almost said her name. And it was my girlfriend 30 years. Coincidentally, she lives in Scripps Ranch too.
Tell your wife.
Good advice, and I made it to 43 years because. Now, we lived there when Scripps was much smaller. There was one Vaughn's grocery store in Scripps Ranch. She never said a word, and I never said a word, but I've never seen my wife look so good going to Vaughn's every time she went to Vaughn's. Coinky-dink or not, but that was where the world of Scripps Ranch went, right? It was the only grocery store, and so everybody went there. A little aside there, we never bumped into her, or I never bumped it. Well, I don't know that maybe she didn't. Ooh, I'm going to have to ask her now. But my point was, dress so that if you meet the right person, because if we have time, network. I can say that enough times. That's how you're going to get a job, period. It's not a classified ad. I laugh every Sunday when I look at the classified ads in our newspaper, which remain nameless. I mean, who runs a classified? Anyway, Monster's not going to do it. Jobbing's not going to do it. Yeah, 5%, 10%. I mean, you may luck into that. It's going to be knowing somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So you need to sort of be ready at any times. How many of you that are looking for work have a business card on you? Is that about a third, would you say, Ellen, of the hands that were up before?
Maybe a fourth.
How many of you brought your resume? How many of you are the same people that brought your business card? You never know when opportunity is going to knock, right? You look on the agenda, you see a guy that does nothing but hire all day long. You never know when you might have an opportunity to slip me a resume or slip me a business card. Right? You're at your kid's soccer game or grandkid's soccer game or your soccer game, and people say, well, how you doing, Mary? And you say, well, I'm doing great, da, 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 da. When you're really looking for work, you say, hey, life's great, and I'm looking for a new position. I've decided I'm not a good retiree, and I want to go back to work. 30-second elevator speech. How many of you know it? What that is? How many could give me one right now? One more time. How many of you are serious about looking for work? Not a good ratio there. If we had a little more time, I would literally get out of this chair and go to somebody who raised their hand and said, give me your 30-second elevator speech. Because I'm the person you want to give it to. And I'm very critical of elevator speeches. Because you've got that time frame. And the joke is, elevator speech, people always say, what's an elevator speech? It's sort of the time that the elevator opens, in my building, the elevator opens, I walk on. I see somebody I sort of know who wants to know me and says, hi, Phil, how are you? And I said, fine, how are you doing? Well, it's interesting. I'm doing great. I'm in the middle of a job search. I say, well, what kind of work are you looking for? I am looking for a job as a receptionist in a company in the Point Loma area with companies such as blah, blah, blah. Really? We do a lot of business with San Diego County Community Credit Union. Let me have your card. Oh, I don't have one. Well, let me have your resume. Don't have that either. See ya! Because by then I hope the elevator's open and I can get out. Whether it's my floor or not, I'm getting out on that floor. Huge opportunity was missed. Now you can say quickly, well, but can I have your card? That's not the game. I'm not going to dig for a card for you. You want the job. What's the golden rule? Then don't give me the Bible one. And I don't think it's in the Bible. I think my HR person corrected me. I need to say that.
Be prepared.
He who has the gold makes the rule. Gold is paycheck. Rule is HR conditions. Gold is my business card. I will rule. I'm not going to dig for a card because you don't have one. And in fact, I just deleted your name because you weren't prepared when opportunity knocked. And I flip forward to the elevator opens. You represent my company. My biggest prospect walks in. You're too bashful to talk to them. Out. You do talk to them and they say, oh boy, we're hiring a lot of people. Give me your card. I don't have one. Really? Don't want my business too bad, do you? Give me your card. No. Doesn't work that way. See ya. Always have a business card. And don't somebody raise their hand and says, well, I don't have a business. How can I have a business card? Okay, don't get quite so literal on me. Resumes and business cards, don't put your home address. I'm not going to drive by and see if you mowed your grass. But that big weed in the middle is getting awful big, so you should have pulled that thing. Cell phone. If I call you about a job, I don't want to have your grandchild or child answering and go, Grandma's not here, call back later. Because guess what? I ain't calling back later. Give me your cell phone because you control that. Well, I don't have a cell phone. Really? What job would I hire you for that you don't know cell phone? It's just indicative. My 94-year-old father uses a cell phone all the time. His 80-year-old girlfriend uses hers all the time. Cutest thing you ever seen in your life. Her name is Margarita. They live in Houston. They rule where they live, right? They're like the And their favorite restaurant is a Mexican restaurant near where they live. I mean, I have a kind of warped sense of humor, but I insisted we go to the Mexican restaurant to have a margarita with margarita. My dad is like rolling his eyes. Oh, you're so original out there in California. You know? I thought it was cute. So keep those things in mind. When opportunity knocks, be ready. When you're dressing for an interview, dress for my corporate culture, not what's comfortable. Because if it's comfortable for you, and you're going to have to wear heels and hose and represent my company as the greeter at the front desk, for example, and you refuse to do that, don't waste my time and yours. You're going to a very casual restaurant, don't show up in a business suit and high heels, and they'll go, whoa, lady, this is little Cantina Mexicana here. What are you doing? You didn't read me right. And if you don't read the obvious things, either overdressed or underdressed, then that's indicative of your thought process, and it ain't going to work for us. So those are some issues to keep in mind that can really derail a job search that could lead to success. And they seem little and they seem petty, but think what your answer or your appearance or your attitude or your follow-through, what it is indicative of in your life to a complete stranger.
Thank you so much, Phil. And a couple questions. I just got one that asked, would you leave a message on that cell phone when you called that individual?
You have a couple choices. So we got to the cell phone point, right? If it rings and the message is, hi, it's Granny, best baker of chocolate chip cookies, sweeties. If you got something fun coming down, leave me a message. While you're in the job search, and you ought to see what younger people leave on their messages.
Oh, yes.
Do you know how many good times I could have had if I could follow through on these? 43 years, get it out of your mind there, folks. A mature message on your cell phone, only you are going to answer it. You get the job, go back to Granny and talk about your cookies. Fine. Let's get to LinkedIn and Facebook. If we don't have a question, I'll just jump to that right now.
We do. We have several.
So, the professional, because it is my first contact with you. And what you've heard is first impressions are very, very important. And don't get all hoity, well, first impressions, what if I wasn't having a good day? What if I wasn't having a good minute? You do it too. As human beings, we give each other 5 or 7 seconds when we first meet or see each other. Then we give another 12, 15 seconds to sort of, yes, I was right, or, he's not as geeky as I thought he was. And then I sort of lock into it. And then as human beings, I've sort of made my opinion, and now, just like a spouse, it's hard to change it. So be very aware what those first impressions are. And to show you how we all do it, when Ellen was introducing me, I'm very aware that you gave me 5 to 7 seconds, you gave me 12 to 17 seconds, and then you locked in. Hopefully good, but it could have been, wow, what is this guy? And I know that, and you need to know that. And that's us as humans, and it ain't going to change. So roll with it, don't fight it. If I go to Facebook and LinkedIn that follows through on this, EEOC and all the rules and HR will not let us ask age, gender, children, married, what part of town you live in. I mean, there's all these things we can't ask, right? But when I get down to the 3 candidates, and most HR people won't tell you this, guess where I go?
Okay.
Where? Facebook or LinkedIn.
Okay.
And what do I see there? Your picture. And if I don't see a picture,
Question.
2 things. Really weird appearance, doesn't want to put his or her picture up. Problem. Doesn't know how to put the picture up. I don't know if Colette's in here, my assistant. I don't know how to do a picture up, but I know how to find people to do it. And the picture appears. And that's okay. All I know is you're on LinkedIn, and there's a picture there. Facebook, if you're looking for a job, LinkedIn is the very professional place we all go.
Okay.
Facebook is a more personal thing. Having that be friend only, I don't even know what that word is, friend only. I have Facebook, but people put things on there now. I don't put them on, and so I go to my Facebook page every once in a while and go, really? So Facebook can be more personable, but watch it, because if I go there and if you let me in, I don't want to see you passed out drunk at a great party with Aunt Betty saying, hey, good time at Sally's wedding, wasn't it? Not that I care that you're a happy partying person or that you went to the wedding, but that you had the bad taste to let it be posted on your Facebook page. So clean it up. If you're going to let me into your Facebook page, then let me look at this and go, what a nice person. What a cute family, and blah, blah, you know. I'm not looking to see if you have a cute family. I'm just looking to see if you have the common sense to clean up your Facebook page and that you're on LinkedIn. If you say, well, I'm not on LinkedIn, well, get on LinkedIn.
Okay.
It's what we do. It's the same like having a cell phone. So, important things here.
Great, thank you. And we do have some workshops today that'll focus on technology and social media, including LinkedIn. Now,
Good.
Phil, here's a couple questions that come in about the different generations in the workplace. And some of our attendees are wondering, what about the difference in work ethics between the generations? Is that something that can be impactful for the mature worker trying to re-enter the workplace?
Well, it certainly is, and I think millennials are waking up to realizing that in most businesses, okay, I'm not talking Google and the high-techy stuff because they fit in there perfectly. But if you take those out, hunger is not a comfortable sensation to them either. And being very picky about, I'm not doing an 8-to-5 job, or I'm not leaving my bedroom to go to work, or I'm not doing, okay, don't, fine, not a problem. You ain't gonna be working for me. And you may not be working for anybody until you get really hungry, or you get really tired of your elementary school bedroom that you've moved back to, boomerang. So you're going to hear an evolution of them wising up to work ethic. Now, Carly made a very good point about my father started with the same company, worked for 35, 38 years. The same company. There was never a thought of leaving it. He didn't steal or lie or cheat, so there was never thought of letting him go. And he did very well. I mean, he was a big mucky muck in the company. But the company said move to Venezuela. I said, sure, when do you need me there? And they said move to Peru. Fine, when do you need me? New York City, fine, when do you need me there? There wasn't a, let me go home and talk to the missus. It was much like the military. Not so much anymore. The average permanent job in America today is slightly over 3 years. And don't jump to the conclusion that as employers we fire everybody after 3 years. The workplace is a partnership. I am going to keep you employed when you get your job, and this is indicative as you do your job search, being aware of this. As long as your talents are what I need at that time, at that price point, I will hire you, and I will hire you to take my gold and to follow my rules. But as soon as you get stale, and by that I mean a new software comes out and you say, oh, I don't want to learn it. I put in a new accounting system, and God forbid you say, I'm too old to learn that new stuff. Just think of that as a knife in the back of your career. Don't ever let that phrase, I'm too old to. Anything. But if you get scared, and this is, if you're 75 or 15, I'm going to hire you and pay you my gold as long as you have the skill sets I need right then, right now. Now, we just heard how this world is changing so fast. So if you don't change with me, I'm going to say bye-bye. Likewise, the other edge of the knife. You're going to stay with me as long as you like the work, I fairly compensate you, you enjoy the people you're working with, you're learning new things all the time, and it helps your quality of life. Those are the reasons people stay at a company. And it's not in that order. Money is like number 5th.
Right.
But as soon as I'm not meeting your needs, bye-bye. And I'm not going to quit and then look for a job. I'm going to have my radar out, going, you know, this company's going south. The new products are going over here, and this company's not going that way. They're going to be out of business, or they're going to be bought, or sundry other things could happen to them. And I don't want to be left. I want to be the leavor. So I'm going to put my radar up. I'm going to double up my networking. I'm going to update my LinkedIn page. I'm going to do all these things, looking for new opportunity, and I'm going to be the one that says, see ya, and I'm going to move on. Now, if the average permanent job is slightly over 3 years, you pretty much got to keep it going all the time. Don't sit in an interview and say, I was in my last company. I think the example was somebody was with the company 15 years and another job for 20 years. You know what I hear? If I'm hiring for somebody for my company, I want somebody that worked here for 5 years, over there for 3 years, over there for 4 years, in the international department for 5 years. So they bring a lot of experience to me, a lot of different company culture, a lot of different input, so that they can say things. Well, at Hewlett-Packard, we did a really clever thing. We did blit. And I go, that's fabulous. Thank you for bringing that piece, not some secret lotion, you know. They reorganized their accounting department this way when I was there, and it worked really well. That's a great piece of advice. Thank you. You've been with one company 35 years. Mm-hmm. I got 2 choices in HR. Wow, you must be really good. You were union. Issue. Or they were asleep at the wheel. And they're probably out of business, and that's why you're here. Or nobody hired you away? You were so milquetoast that Manpower search didn't steal you because you were the hottest commodity known to man and bring you over to another company? Ouch. So don't sit in front of me and be proud you were somewhere for 35 years anymore. You got a whole sales job to talk me out of that, because that ain't a good thing.
Well, Phil, our time is just about up, but this has been extremely interesting and helpful. But here's a personal question for you. If you retired from Manpower today, but you still wanted to work, how would you go about deciding what to do?
Where does it say in our contract, turn the tables on me here? Let me tell you, 10% of Americans love what they do. Get up in the morning excited to go to work. I'm in that. Next 40 like what they do, but hey, Friday's coming and the weekend, and that's great. But Monday's coming and I love what I do. Right? The next 40 are, yeah, it pays the bills. But my God, it's only Wednesday at 2 o'clock. It seems like it was, last time I looked, it was, that's the bottom 40. And then the bottom 10 are the, oh my God, stick this water bottle through my heart, don't make me go to work. And I take some joy in the biggest job category down there are attorneys, lawyers are in that bottom 10. So sometimes justice gets done. I love what I do. I can't imagine retiring. I don't play golf. I try golf and opera every 5 years just to see if in the last 200 years they've changed. And neither one of them has changed. Still 18 holes, still a little white ball, still that metal, that steel stick, and lots of wasted acres out there. Opera, they still scream at you, and I can't understand what they're saying and don't like it. So. I love what I do. As I evolve through, we started this business and still in business with my best friend, and our wives are best friends. Started this business at $9,000 a week in sales. And we now do a little over $3 million a week in sales. So it's grown from a tiny business, entrepreneurial to startup to big to where really in our industry we're considered huge. And that's fun. I wrote the book Job One because I like presenting. I like telling people the answers to get through people like me. And I say to my HR brethren, I say, let's tell them what upsets us, what turns us off, what irritates us. We don't want to interview 30 people to hire 2. We want to interview 3 and can't decide which of the 2 of the 3 to hire. It makes our job much easier. So I want to communicate that. I want to get that tight, frustrated, depressed look off people's jobs when they have to go back to work, not by choice, or want to go back to work by choice. And they're about 50-50. And help them find that path that's right for them and manage their careers. And we all have one career manager that's in charge of our career. And who is it? And don't ever, ever forget it. I don't want to hear, well, my wife won't, my husband won't, I got my kids didn't, or my parents were divorced, or I lived in Pittsburgh, or something. Bleh. It's all here, boys, to make it happen or not happen. And you can make it happen. The economy's turning around. The employment numbers came out yesterday that went from 6.1 up to 6.6 unemployment. When you look at it, it was all the students are back, all the teachers are back unemployed, all the college students are back. It shoots up every July. 50, other than the teachers and all that, education, 5,700 more people got jobs in July this year than last year. Construction added 1,500 jobs. That's indicative of Home Depot over here will be doing well because people are going to buy sinks and couches, and the best thing is construction to go up. So it's looking good out there. But manage your career, and it's up to you to make it happen. And when if you had a videotape, think, would I hire me? If I would, why would I? and play that up. And if you're like, work it and make those things go away. And have fun with it. You're going to meet new people. You'll meet exciting people. Will you not get a job of your dreams? Sure, that happens to all of us, right? I mean, we asked how many girls did we ask out on a date and they didn't say yes. It was their loss, but how many didn't say yes? So, best of luck out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
all
Phil. Wonderful. Could I just go ahead and get a hand for Phil right now?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining our presentation, brought to you by the County of San Diego Aging and Independence Services, with support from the San Diego Continuing Education and Programming from the Jewish Family Service, San Diego Workforce Partnership, and the Small Business Administration. We hope you enjoyed this presentation and found real value, and we wish you the best of luck as you manage your career going forward.